The typical documents that are involved in forming the LLC are as follows. You have the Articles of Organization or Certificate of Organization that we've already discussed. You'll also have actions of the organizer. There's an operating agreement. You also may have a restricted unit purchase agreement, an IP assignment, a confidential information and inventions assignment agreement, and an employer identification number. The actions of the organizer reflects the fact that there is an organizer who files the articles or certificate of organization on behalf of the company. And it documents the fact that that person did file the articles. And once they're filed, the organizer then resigns. The operating agreement is a very important document for the limited liability company. It governs how the managers and the members of the company actually work together and governs the affairs of the organization. The operating agreement should set forth all of the responsibilities of the members and the responsibilities of the managers if there are separate managers of the company. There are a lot of decisions that the company has to make when setting up the operating agreement, including whether there will be managers, the number of managers, what the managers' voting rights are, what the particular responsibilities that are delegated to those managers, as well as a variety of other issues. The operating agreement should also cover certain issues like indemnification of the managers and limitation of liability of the members. Indemnification basically means that if the manager, when making a decision on behalf of the company, is responsible for paying expenses for a lawsuit to defend itself, that the company is going to reimburse that manager for any expenses that have been paid. The manager also is not personally liable, and the company should put provisions in the operating agreement that say that the manager isn't personally liable except under certain circumstances that are required by law. Typical operating agreement provisions, in addition to the management provisions, include capital contributions, profit and loss allocations, distributions of any income from the company, the voting rights of members and managers, whether there are going to be transfers of the members' interests allowed, indemnification provisions, as I've already discussed, and meetings of the members and managers and how many will be required. The Restricted Unit Purchase Agreement is another document that LLC owners will want to make sure they enter into if they want to impose vesting on their particular interest or the interest of other owners. What that basically means is that an owner who has vesting imposed on their equity does receive all of their equity up front, but the company has the right to repurchase the equity under certain circumstances where the owner may leave the company before a certain period of time. The Restricted Unit Purchase Agreement has the owner of the equity purchase their units or equity in the LLC. And in addition, the owner is agreeing that if he or she doesn't stay with the company for a particular period of time, the company has the right to repurchase the interest. Typical vesting provisions require a 4-year vesting period. Typically, the owner will not receive any vested equity up front. They'll receive a quarter of their equity vested after a year, and then over a 3-year period, a portion of their equity will vest every month. This is an important concept to include for companies that want to make sure that people are invested in staying with the company for a particular period of time. The IP assignment is another very important document for owners to enter into, particularly those with technology or other intellectual property that's important for the company. The IP assignment assigns all intellectual property of an owner to the company, and it's all of the intellectual property that the owner has created before the company was formed. A related document is the Confidential Information and Inventions Assignment Agreement. That document similarly assigns all of the intellectual property of the owner to the company, but that's the intellectual property that's being created while the owner works with the company. That document also requires the owner to keep certain information confidential from third parties. It's important to make sure you have both of those documents, or that both the IP assignment for the pre-existing IP as well as the IP that's created while the company is in operation, either in one document or in two separate documents. For the IP assignments and the CIIAs, you want to make sure not only that the owners sign those documents, but any employees or independent contractors sign as well. The employer identification number is another important thing that the company needs to make sure that it gets, especially if it has employees. In order to apply for the employer identification number, you'll need to apply through the irs.gov website and provide various information. A lot of times banks will require an EIN before a company is able to set up its bank accounts. You may not find a lot of these documents that I've discussed in some of these do-it-yourself websites. So it's really important to talk to a licensed attorney and an accountant when setting up your LLC to make sure that you have all of the documents you need to legally set up and operate your company.